Okay, good evening. We're live on Facebook straight away. No tech problems on a Wednesday, so we need to start doing more Facebook Lives on Wednesdays, don't we? We just spend the whole day doing Facebook Lives. If you've just joined us on Facebook, we are now live and cooking with gas tonight, I think. So Stan, you've come to join us. We're talking about it's Couch to 5K Day, isn't it? Because we've got the guests. So where do people run? Why do so many people run?
Yeah. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. And yes, Couch to 5K. And this is for people really that have, they have weighed up their options of physical activity and they've decided they've picked on running as an activity that they want to get involved in. And usually it's maybe for recreational purposes. But there is the daunting task on, because there's so much information out there from other runners, from the internet, from literature. There's so much information, it can be daunting to decide just how do I start? You have decided you want to start. It's just a case of how do I do it? That's the crust, and that's the gist of our talk tonight.
Brilliant. So what you're going to hear from us at the end is some tips on how to get started with running. We're going to talk to you tonight about the common pitfalls that people make when it comes to starting running. And you're going to hear about some of my mistakes that I made, which I think would be interesting to learn from as well, so you don't make the same mistake as well. And we're going to tell you a little bit about some tips. If you are a beginner, you're looking to get started, so what kind of things you need to look out for, what kind of things you should be doing, you shouldn't be doing, as well. So you're going to hear all of that tonight on Facebook Live. So stick around to the end. If you've got any questions, just drop them in the comments box below, and we would absolutely love to hear from you guys tonight. But Stan, to get started, so obviously people want to run. The main reason they want to run is to de-stress, to lose weight. They've got running goals. They want to compete at higher levels. So there's lots of different reasons why people would start running. But what do you think the pitfalls of starting to run? So if we go through maybe the mistakes people make, so what kind of common mistakes do you think people make at the beginning when they first start running?
I think one of the common ones, there could be a number of those, but a common one is really getting on to start the running without enough information on how to do it. And because people start running without knowing how to do it in terms of just how much should I do? How much running should I do? And in which direction should I be running at? On what surfaces am I running at? How do I do it on my own? I think that's the biggest hurdle. And when people don't find the satisfaction because they haven't done it right, they then think running in itself is very difficult. I think the first thing people want to do is find out, from knowledgeable people, from those that are already running, on how exactly do I start this? And the biggest pitfall there is just how long should I be running? How much distance should I cover? So that people are running within their means. They run within the means of their conditioning at that stage. But before they get to running, Steve, there's one thing that I like to point out, which is critical. They would need to know where they are currently. That is the physical condition. What condition are they in? Because it's the physical condition that will determine what steps they need to take, how much of that mileage they need to take. And I'm using the term mileage very loosely here. So it will be important for them to have some kind of screening of some sort, with some professionals, some medical strict screening there, just to ensure the health component for which they are seeking in the running is in itself addressed before they actually start running. They want to check if they have any cardio issues. Are there any joint issues there, which might be exacerbated because they've started running with them? They just basically need some sort of clean bill of health. Then you can go out and start running. I think that what I would say would be one of the pitfalls, the major pitfalls there.
Definitely. So the first step really is to understand where you've been in terms of your fitness, your health, the reason you're running, your motivation, because you're going to need to enjoy it because it's going to be a bit painful to get started. I think that's something that people don't anticipate, do they? They know it's going to be difficult, but they don't understand how difficult it is to start running. So then they kind of start and then they stop very quickly. And I think that's a real shame when you see people that start, they get injured, they stop, or they just lose enthusiasm for it, or their mates kind of stop doing it, so they drop out as well. But would you think, are there any tips that you can share with people to help keep that motivation up when it comes to like getting over that initial hurdle?
Yeah, the first tip is manage your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Get real, keep it realistic. You don't want to run your enthusiasm tank empty and then think, now that's it. No. Start light. Start very light. Keep it within in a management zone. Do not look at other runners because you are an individual. Doesn't matter whether the runner you're looking at is somebody younger, somebody older. No, you are you. You run within your means, and your means is something that only you can have established before you start running. Stay within that zone and don't go to the end of your threshold, because then the muscles are not going to like it. And when muscles don't like what you have done, they do tell you in a very loud way. And sometimes we don't come back from some of those, body slashes that it gives us because we don't know how to manage it. Pain is something that you encounter when you're running. And therefore, you need to understand and prepare for what sort of discomfort and aches you will feel because of having exerted your muscle in a manner in which they're not usually done. That's exactly what would be happening. You are not hurt. It's just the muscles responding to the loading, to the new activity that you have done. I say to runners, your muscles are waking up. Surely you don't want to get them back to sleep again.
Yeah.
Allow them to wake up, listen to them, and then move them gently and progressively. I think that's the way to go.
No, it's good advice, And I wish I'd known Stan years ago when I started running. And I'm talking from first personal experience here because I did my first half marathon a long time ago, thank goodness. But those of you that know me, I'm a tennis player, so we do a lot of side-to-side, forwards and backwards movements, but it's kind of short distances, long durations of doing short distances, but that doesn't equate to the same fitness as doing a half marathon. So unfortunately, I found out the hard way, thinking that I was okay to go out and run a couple of miles before the half marathon, thought I was fit enough. I was fit up here in my head, so I got round, but I paid the price for about 3 weeks afterwards in terms of recovery. So not a mistake that I'll be making again, and certainly one for other people to come. You don't need to go through that pain that I went through, but easy mistake to make, isn't it? Because I think your background can also determine a lot about your fitness. Like we've been talking about for the last few weeks, we've been talking a lot about specificity for running. So just because you run on a tennis court doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at running half marathons, is it? Because they're different types of running. Completely
different, Steve. I could not emphasize that enough. I think we must separate it here, for the sake of, beginner runners. Let's separate the act of running and the events of running. I think it's important that separation, and that, separation is important because then there is no pressure to a beginner runner. You first learn the language of running, and then you decide to go, once you've acquired the language of running, and you've acquired a bit of the culture of running, then you go and look at the next place where you want to express that together with many other people in an environment called a race. It's not an approach that I would recommend to start running because I want to go and run a half marathon, because that's way down the road. That's way down out there. There are a lot of other milestones that you want to go through before you reach to the half marathon or the full marathon. There are lots of small park runs that are there, but even a 3K park run, it might really give you a knockback if you haven't prepared for it properly. By proper preparation, I'm talking about developing your muscles gently and progressively to be able to carry you throughout that distance, because that's what they're doing. Your body, if you haven't been running before, your body is not used to being supported on one limb with a whole body weight on it. That's what you are doing when you are running, and your body weight has increased, a multiple times, maybe up to 5 times on one limb when you are in the support stance. Now that's a lot of mass and a lot of weight plus times gravity on the muscles in that one limb. And these muscles have not experienced that before. So there's going to be a response to that. So it's important to learn how to do it. What should the joints be doing? What should the muscles be doing? What should my trunk be doing? What position should it be in? So that there is, if you like, a relationship throughout the body, a cooperative relationship throughout the body as you go out, as you go through the running motion, instead of bits and pieces or parts of or regions of the body fighting against each other. Once muscles start fighting and competing against each other, you are just asking for trouble.
Yeah, brilliant. So Tina has joined us on Facebook. So she says, what about your mind and your heart love running, but your legs hate it? Very good question, Tina.
Yes, it's not an uncommon dilemma, really, in which certain faculties, human faculties, are not in tandem, or over a certain decision that one wants to do. That it is not an uncommon situation. So it's a case of finding how to bridge that variance between the desire of the mind and the heart and the ability of the body to close that gap, to come in and meet each other. I think in that situation, I would encourage from a coach standpoint, say, all right, let's give the body some confidence so that the body can come along with the mind and the heart.
Yeah.
Why the body is not jumping on board with the mind is because the body hasn't got the confidence and does not trust what the mind is planning. It's not on the mind's side. So it's a case of bringing the body in gently with small steps, small movement tasks, until the muscles gain confidence to join the mind and the heart. And therefore,
I think that's quite right. I think today's society creates a lot of strength because people go through quite a lot, and I think mental strength is one attribute of strength, and I think physical strength in terms of like hours of pounding on the pavement is a different kind of strength. So it's quite easy sometimes to get those things confused, where you're a very strong lady, like I'm sure Tina is. Being able to run on a regular basis might seem like a very trivial task, but actually it's just because you're strong up here, it doesn't necessarily mean you're strong like in the feet department as well. So just trying to kind of, like Stan was saying, just bridge that gap. I think it's so important just to rein in the horses a little bit with the mind, and then just let the body catch up, and then you get them going along, and they're all perfectly balanced, Tina. So that's where we like it around here. Great question there, Tina. Really good. Really good. So Stan, we talked about hand holding, didn't we, at the beginners of starting a race. So if you're a beginner and you're looking to enter a race or start a race, where should you start? A 5K is a good distance to start with, or should you go for something a little bit more ambitious, or how should you play it?
At any distance is only comfortable if you have specifically prepared for it.
Yeah.
Any distance would need very specific, and by preparation, I mean conditioning. The body would only serve you right to enjoy what event you're doing if you have prepared, if it has been conditioned to meet the demands of that race. So what race to start off with for me is secondary. You could start off with 500 meters, you could start off with 1,000 meters, 1K, 2K, 3K. I think progression is the name of the game. Yeah. But because there are so many park runs, and most park runs start at 3K and 5K, that's why those numbers are popular, because that's the nature of the events that we find out there. But if it's the only access that you have is a 3K or a 5K, then that must be reflected in your preparation. You may not just do your 30-minute walks and have a jog there and have a jog there, a walk here, a jog there, and then decide you are ready to run the 3K or the 5K. It's all right if you're going to mimic your training within that race. That's one thing. That's the other side to it, Steve. You can take yourself from that individual training and go and do a 5K where you are doing your walking, jogging, and running. Walking and jogging and running. Therefore, for you, time is not the factor. Completion of the distance is. By varying the various paces of your movement between walking, jogging, a little run here and back to walking and jogging, responding and listening to your body. So yes, definitely you could do that and cover it at whatever time that you do it, and then repeat it, but looking to drop down your times. The benefit of doing that is there's the social capital of getting involved with other runners. That can itself also invest in your own motivation and invest in your own further training because you've completed the race. However you've completed it, that gives you a big oomph to want to continue to train and increase and reduce those walking times and walking distances, replace them with more jogging and replace them with more running. That's the way one would go, yes. I would say start low and then progress through the races. Definitely do not start with a 10K. You want to start with a 3K and a 5K. A 5K really is reasonable and it's within, on average, it's within anyone's grasp.
Yeah, good, excellent, good. I think with regards to common injuries that people get when they're first started running, I think the main ones are typically kind of overuse impact injuries. So stress fractures, shin splints, tendon problems. I'd probably say knee problems are quite high up on the list as well, normally down to like biomechanical reasons. So making sure you've got the right footwear, making sure your foot has got used to being loaded as well. I think if you're coming from not doing anything into running, you're probably a little bit higher risk in terms of getting some of these biomechanical injuries. So it's a good idea just to start gradually build up the mileage. You're probably better off building your confidence with your first race rather than trying to go for something or push for something that's really going to stretch you on that first race or second race or third race. I think just rolling it in and strolling it in is probably better than doing it comfortably, so that you can kind of get a couple of races under your belt before you start to increase your race capital and invest a little bit more as well. So what are your thoughts on that, Stan? What kind of injuries do you see early on in running?
Indeed, they all come and they're the ones that I would call blind spot injuries, things that the athletes are not aware of because of lack of running experience. They are not aware of those type of things would cause injuries for them. And for one is, basically what surface to run on. It's the first one for me. What surface are you running on based on what condition you are in? And how long are you running on that surface? I would encourage most beginner runners to do that on very soft surfaces, maybe running on the grass, running on football pitches where this is possible, running in parks, as opposed to going to pound, going onto the roads, because that creates a lot of shock systems within their skeletal system, for which they probably have not yet acquired the necessary skills to manage those ground reaction forces that they would be generating. So I would advise people to keep away, go onto the soft surface, like in a park, and run in there to avoid, those sort of injuries. And then the other one is simply, chronic fatigue, because you just went for a distance way beyond the body's present or current fitness levels. Know your limits. And when it's time to stop, you stop and let your teammates or whatever, if it's in a running group, let other people run within their zones. Be comfortable by staying within your zone, so that you are not straining your muscles way far beyond the point where it is useful to strain them. We get better because we strain the muscles, but only to an optimal point, to a certain threshold. If we go beyond that, then we are really straining and causing damage to those muscles. So it's knowing when. It's knowing when to, knowing when to slow down and stay in. And that is only possible if you plan your race, plan your training session, instead of just going out there and responding on it. Plan it. I'm going to run for 35 minutes and run for 35 minutes and shut it down. I'm going to run for 50, rather, I'm going to run for 2.5K, run 2.5K and shut it down and get back home. So that, and you listen to the body, how it is responding, because this body has got a feedback mechanism, and it has a way of telling us, just how happy it is with what we've done, or whether it is really not in agreement. It will be able to tell us that, and therefore we make the necessary adjustments. So that's what I would suggest. Those are some of the issues that are common, I find common in there. And then, of course, there's the one which you've alluded to, which is one of footwear. Let footwear save your feet. That's what I would encourage, as opposed to just going to get footwear because it meets certain perceptions in the mind. Let footwear save your feet so that your feet can run the race or go through the training session. So basically what you want there is comfort. That's definitely what you want. Get some comfort in your shoes. Ensure there's enough traction on it, depending on the surface that you're going to run, and it's nice and firm on the foot. It allows your leg it allows the foot to perform what the natural geometry of your own person would want to do. So the shoe should not restrict the foot in the manner that the foot wants to, is used to move it, because that could create more than a few muscular issues.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, Stan, we've already touched on the concept earlier on about things that people could potentially be scared of that might put them off running. But are there a list of things that you think people can potentially become quite scared of if they start running? Obviously, pain's being one of them, because they might not anticipate it's going to be a bit painful to start with, because then if starting anything new is going to be a bit painful, right? But what are the kind of things do you think they are maybe not so aware of when people start running that they should maybe be aware of a bit more?
Yeah, it is, apart from, the pain, which is whatever it is that they have in their perceptual history, anything that they relate to pain, that could be one of them. But another one that you want to say is the one that I've already referred to, is people are afraid because they don't have enough information. They don't have enough knowledge about things. And therefore their fear can also be from without, basically because, they haven't encountered what is true about that situation. You have questions like, are you sure running is good for my back? Is it not going to hurt my back? Because somebody else ran and they've got a sore back. It's not because of running that that person has got a sore back. It's because of their wrong technique. That's why they've got a sore back. It's something, it's in the manner of running, usually, in most cases, that the athletes or runners get these aches and pains. It's not from the act of running itself. It's in the manner of how they run. Now, that lends itself to technique. It lends itself to skill, which is something that can be learned. You know? Yeah. So it's this, the gap there is the skill as opposed, for me, as opposed to the act of running itself. But because we never sit down to learn how to walk, let alone learn how to run, we think, most people think, all I need to run is just get running gear, and then I'm good to run. That's great. It's great for the mind. It gives us that kinesthetic, you know, feel and a buzz for it. But as long as the body itself that's doing the job is not taken care of, by taken care of, I mean, it has not been given the skill, we are really just making ourselves susceptible to injuries. So the biggest one there for me, among a few others, is lack of knowledge on how to run. That's what is important, and that's what needs to be addressed. Join, I think what I would advise with that one is find a running group, because people who are running would have lots of experiential knowledge, and they're just more than willing to share that with new runners, beginner runners, on the pitfalls of running. Either, you know, from a technique point of view, or from a running attire point of view, or from the running distances and surfaces point of view. So there is a lot of help out there, but one has to seek it and look for it instead of just going out there, you know, blindly, if I may use the term, with, you know, and therefore encounter difficulties in the process.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. So Stan, just to summarize, because it's getting late, what do you think the top mistakes are that you see runners making when they first start running?
Yeah, I think one of them is not underestimating the role of fueling and hydrating. That is something that is usually and often, you know, underestimated. The need to have enough fuel in the body to go and run. We cannot just use the same fuel in an ordinary day that we have in an ordinary day at the end of the day and go out running without topping up, because we are really milking the body out of the little energy that is left at the end of a heavy day, and asking the body to make do with that little, you know, energy that is left, and yet we're giving it a lot of tasks to do. So it's important, if I'm going to go for a run, my eating, my nutrition that day has got to reflect that extra, the need for that extra amount of energy in my body. Yeah. Before I go out to run. And because running involves sweating, we are perspiring, we are losing weight, we are losing water from the body. That has got to be replenished. But more importantly, that has got to be stored in the body so that we are not completely depleted by the time we end the session. Because total depletion simply means a long and arduous recovery. We might wake up the following day and feel like sick. We don't want to go to work, we don't want to go to school, because the body is feeling like it's in a mess. Basically, it's because we haven't recovered. But recovery starts before we go out for, you know, for training. I think for me, that is one of the, you know, areas that could be avoided. Getting to training, getting into running on low energy levels.
Yeah, good. Excellent, Stan. So just to wrap things up, you're saying that people should get into running slowly. Don't overestimate the physical demands of running. They should find appropriate level races to start with, because that's super important, so that they're not going in too high or too easy, I guess, as well. Nutrition, you said about nutrition, hydration, they're very important for that initial starting off with running. And also thinking about where your body is currently when you first start running, instead of going in with lots of people that might come from a slightly different physical background, going at a level that's suitable for you based on your previous experience with regards to your body as well. So would you say that pretty much sums it up, Stan?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely, yes.
Brilliant.
You summed it up very well. Yeah, screening to start off with, and then decide, make it progressive, start within your zone, and then extend it. Be patient with it. It takes a long time to get the body into a running condition, but be patient with it. 6 to 8 weeks would be enough to see you go in and start running, maybe a 3K or a 5K. But be consistent. You start, be consistent with it. Do not do it 1 week, stop for 2 weeks, and then come back to it, because the body would have gone back to zero. Yeah. Good
points. Excellent. Well, hopefully you guys have enjoyed it tonight. Thank you very much for all the comments. That's really good to see a lot of people engaging them. And if there's any more questions, just leave them in the comments box below, and we'll cycle back round to pick those up later. But if you've got any burning questions that you'd like to ask Stan, then now's your time. And we will let you know a little bit about some of the fantastic stuff we've got coming up on Facebook Live. So we have one of our elite footballers coming to join us tomorrow evening. So Helen Ward is coming to join us tomorrow evening to talk about life as a footballer in lockdown. It's really exciting actually to have her on. So it's going to be really good experience. And if you'd love to ask footballers some questions or to find out a little bit more about their lifestyle or how lockdown's affecting them, then certainly join tomorrow evening around 7 o'clock on Facebook Live. We will be here yet again. But it's been fantastic talking to you. I've been Stephen Mack for tonight, and this has been Stan Geary. So I'm going to say goodbye. Stan's going to say goodbye as well.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
And we will see you tomorrow evening. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.